It's Goodwood, it's loud. Racing as a hobby is fantastic. Racing as a career is really, really difficult.
We only put you in the really dangerous situation.
Yeah, exactly. And it burned through my Nomex onto my left buttock, and I finished the race with a blister the size of a 2p piece.
This is the holy ground of car lovers. Welcome to the Talking Ball podcast powered by Arbitrade. I'm Nicola Hume, I'm your host. We are here at Goodwood Festival of Speed celebrating every single car you can possibly imagine, and I'm joined on the sofa by former Formula One driver David Coulthard and technical director of the Red Bull Advanced Technologies, it's Rob Gray. We'll have another round of applause. Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm feeling somewhat as if his intelligence is kind of oozing over to me. You know, normally I only ever get to do this on my own, and I just, you know, racing drivers are the goldfish of the sporting world. We go around and we go, oh, that was fun, let's do it again, and we do that and we do it again. But you know, you said it was like technical genius here, so it's thank you for allowing me to be on this very low sofa with you.
It is a really low sofa. But the thing is, Rob, is everyone within the team speaks so highly of you. Everybody. So everyone that I've bumped into, I'm like, oh, we're getting Rob Gray on the podcast. And they're like, oh, what a guy. He's a legend. Because you've been part of the team since its inception and before that.
Since the start, really.
Yeah.
So joined the team when it was Jaguar, and then Red Bull took over, and I've been here ever since.
So tell me what a technical director does of Red Bull Advanced Technologies. Because actually, that's not part of Red Bull Racing. It's a whole separate entity, isn't it?
Yeah, so Red Bull Advanced Technologies is a separate entity that was formed about 11 years ago now, when Dietrich Mateschitz was a little bit disappointed how all the lovely F1 engineering wasn't going out into the wider world, and so Advanced Technologies was formed to actually get that engineering out there. And so it started off with working on the America's Cup back in the Ben Ainslie days, so a long time ago, and then moved into cars for Gran Turismo, so Adrian's Gran Turismo concept, and then quite quickly got into Valkyrie, and Valkyrie then dominated the next few years.
So what's your kind of day-to-day?
So day-to-day, sorry, that was the original question, wasn't it? So what do I actually
do?
What do I actually do? No, it's difficult. So, I mean, there's a technical side of it. So I'm overseeing projects such as the RB17, but that's a fairly high level. I don't tend to get too involved in the details, much as I'd like to. I mean, it's a really good day when I do get involved in the details, so I'm still an engineer at heart.
Of course.
But then there's a lot of time spent worrying about the bigger aspects of the project, worrying about the financials, talking to the customers. So I spend a lot of time with the customers, and they're a really fascinating bunch to get to know.
Yeah.
You know, they've all got good collections of cars. They've all been through this process before, and so we're learning a lot from them, as well as providing them with an amazing car for the future.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it's like we're here at Goodwood Festival of Speed. We are celebrating car culture at its absolute best. This is the people that like to tinker underneath the bonnets, as well as people that are loving Formula One. You can go and have a look at a Ford electric car, and then 5 seconds later watch David do some donuts. So have you done some donuts today?
Yes, yeah, mainly because I was never very good at going in a straight line. So spinning around was my forte. But yeah, look, I've driven RB7, RB8 today. These are two of the cars that we use for the running show car events that we do all over the world. So whether it's doing donuts on the top of the Burj Al Arab, or driving in the desert across the beach, we've basically been everywhere. We've been on snow as well, at the Hahnenkammer race in Kitzbühel. I didn't personally drive in each of those events. But
is that because you weren't trusted to do it?
No. I'm highly trusted by myself. And
I think we only put you in the really dangerous situations.
Exactly.
Top of hotels, that sort of thing.
I'm disposable. You want to keep the youth for just in case they need them to race. But I'm very familiar with that V8, and they're great little cars in comparison to a modern Grand Prix car, which is quite big, quite heavy, and of course technically interesting and high performing. But my generation of V8s are fun little cars to drive.
Yeah. I mean, I need to just quickly acknowledge that if you do start hearing revving and popping and stuff in the background, that's only a good thing, because we are surrounded by every possible car you can imagine, and they all sound beautiful. Can I tell you about my day yesterday? Right.
Did you say yes? I never said yes.
I was going to say yes.
Oh, okay.
And we could say no.
We could say no, couldn't we?
All right, fine, we'll move on. I'm going to tell you about it anyway.
We don't want to live in the past, but tell us about your day.
Listen, because I can't stop smiling about it, right? So, in my humble opinion, this is the holy ground of car lovers. You come to Goodwood and you get to see every single possible thing that's been made in terms of cars and bikes, Formula One cars, rally cars. Now, I was invited to go and do a trip on the rally stage to go and be a passenger. And I just happened to time it just right to then be offered to be a passenger in a Dakar car, which blew my mind because last year, I spent 3 weeks out in Saudi Arabia hosting a show for Red Bull TV, and we tried so hard to get me as a passenger in a car during a shakedown to try and make that happen. Couldn't make it happen. Turns out I did it yesterday, an hour away from my house. That's the joy of Goodwood.
The power of Goodwood.
Yeah.
But I guess you were most impressed by how it just kind of drives over everything and anything. The Dakar cars can just absorb huge bumps in the road. The rally cars are a bit more raw, a bit more you feel it.
Yeah.
But no, they're incredible bits of heavy engineering, basically. You know, the damper movement in a Formula One car.
You watch them going across the desert, and they're just absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Well, because I was thinking, because I don't know if you've ever been a passenger in a Dakar car, but the movement of the body was crazy. So I had a Red Bull athlete, Seth Quintero, take me out for a lap. And it was the movement of the car from left to right and how it takes it. But then with you being so used to having such a solid base underneath you, that must have been quite a weird experience for you if you've done it.
It's actually looking at something and then not feeling it.
Yeah.
Because in a Grand Prix car, if you see a stone, like a piece of gravel, and you run over it, you feel that. You know, you try and avoid it going under the floor because basically the car's millimeters, if not scraping the ground through the skid plate. So we're very sensitive. You know, Grand Prix drivers are like the princess and the Prix. They can feel a grain of rice in their seat. Whereas, Dakar drivers, they are more about the vision of where they want to be, and everything that's in their way, unless it's a major obstacle, they just plow on through. It's incredible.
And also, we have to give a nod to all of the Red Bull athletes, because I wanted to bring up Chris Kyle, because you worked together with Chris Kyle, didn't you, for that unbelievable feat where there was like a skate bowl that went underneath a hot air balloon, went up in the sky, and then he did loads of tricks on his bike.
Yeah, so Chris basically came to us and said he'd had a dream, or he was walking his dogs and had a vision, and pictured himself floating beneath a hot air balloon with as you say, with a skate bowl, doing backflips. And so they came to us because they built the bowl in plywood, and it was far too heavy for the balloon to lift. They already had the biggest balloon in Europe at the time, and the bowl was weighing like 12 tons, and it needed to be less than 3. So we built a carbon fibre bowl for Chris. The biggest challenge almost was that you had to be able to disassemble it into lumps that were less than 6 foot wide, so that when they landed in a farmer's field, they could get it out the gate.
Oh, of course, yeah. But he's come to you with a dream. And then did you immediately go, I can make that happen. I'll find a way. It's not a problem.
Pretty much. I mean, we do, we've been with the company a long time. So you kind of get slightly used to the slightly out there ideas that get thrown your way. And so the idea of doing a composite structure that saves some weight, it's kind of what we do. Well,
now I need to know what's been the most ridiculous idea that's been thrown your way. And has it come from DC?
No, I don't think it's come from DC.
Or do the ideas get thrown your way and then you go, I can make it work like this, and then you force DC to do it?
Yeah, that's more the way
it works. That makes sense. More the way So there must be things, like I'm thinking now, we're in 2025. Red Bull Formula One has been part of Formula One for the last now 21 years. And you think, 21 years-ish. But you think there must be things that you would have had to say no to 20 years ago that now with technology that we have these days, you can say yes to.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the fundamental engineering technology in the cars hasn't changed that much in terms of the structures and the materials.
Yeah.
It all gets better, but it's not... I don't personally think we've had another carbon chassis revolution, for example, in the last 20 years. So the tech's more on the electronic side, on the control system side, on the software side, and now we're seeing obviously AI coming into more and more things.
Yeah.
So there's things that modern electronics and modern tech are enabling, but not drastically different on the more F1 engineering side.
So what are the feats that you have both worked on together?
Oh. Well, when you were racing for us, we were building the car.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that 4 years, there was a project that I was keen on, which I'm not going to say what it is, just in case we ever manage to get it going again. But it involved driving, so there's always going to be opportunities. We're all the Red Bull family is wide and far-reaching.
Yeah.
The technology aspect of what Rob's taking care of is always going to be a sort of datum point for the other sports that simply don't live in that technology space. They're incredible athletes. They might have tech they use, but Formula One, by its very definition of development and reading the rules to see what they don't say, is where the innovations come from. So I guess Red Bull technology is kind of like a mothership for Red Bull, HQ and all of the athletes that they have around.
Yeah.
And there'll be things that we can learn from other sports as well.
Yeah,
actually,
absolutely.
Which is looking more at the human performance. If you've got like the soccer team and you've got the youth academy and you've got, I don't know how many young, men and women go through that. There must be hundreds and thousands of them. So the technology they have at the human performance side is not something that we overlook in Formula One, but it's very much focused on the individual driver rather than a group of people.
Yeah, because there are so many sports under the Red Bull athlete umbrella, are there any particular sports or any particular Red Bull athlete that you'd love to work with, that you'd love to do something with?
Well, I suppose you always gravitate towards your own interest, don't you? So anything with bikes is always appealing.
Yeah.
I was talking to Matt Jones yesterday.
Yeah.
Anything skiing related, that sort of thing. So it's really just being sort of slightly selfishly looking at what my interests are and thinking.
Because I've seen Matt Jones do
areas.
a bike jump over his house.
Yeah.
Like he's
Why
just as crazy as everybody else. There's something wired within a Red Bull athlete that is just on a whole different level compared to everybody else.
Yeah, and they do seem to spend their whole time thinking about, well, what do we do next?
Yeah.
How do we take this one step further? And
yeah. We can't sit on this podcast without discussing the car that's actually sat behind me, which is the RB17. Now, this was Adrian Newey's baby. He wanted to create a hypercar, something that is so ridiculously fast and ridiculously perfect, and he's created it with your help, Rob. So tell me your involvement with it.
Mine and the team. So, tell you about the car? Or?
Please do.
Yeah.
I know it's got 1,200 horsepower and it's a lovely
1,200 horsepower
V10.
from a 4.5 litre V10 engine. So you drove the RB1? Yeah. So RB1 was the last Cosworth-engined Red Bull, and this is the next Cosworth-engined Red Bull, and the RB1 had a V10, and this has a V10. So it's quite a nice link there. It's very aerodynamically efficient, lots of downforce, and lots of active aerodynamic systems so that we stop the downforce increasing any further once we get to a certain level, and that's to protect the tyres.
Yes. Well, I wanted to talk about this because I was at Le Mans this year. And last time I spoke to Adrian was actually here at Festival of Speed last year. And he told me that actually the design that's there is too fast for Le Mans, just wouldn't be able to cope with it because of the downforce of the car.
Yeah, it would have to be detuned if we wanted to go to Le Mans, and I think you'd have to change the active suspension to passive suspension.
Right.
So there's quite a few changes you can make, but it's not an impossible task.
Okay. So how do you approach building and designing a hypercar compared to a Formula One car? Completely different.
There's a lot of similarities. So I think almost the biggest difference is the hypercar has very few regulations in comparison to F1.
Yeah.
So F1 you're very much designing within a box, whereas the hypercar you design the box first yourself and then you can change it as often as you want. So we have to set some ground rules for ourselves, sort of thing, on things like safety, where we make sure we set some rules to keep ourselves safe. And then how do we design it? Well, very much the same process as you use to design an F1 car. So we're using the simulator to run the car in the virtual world, using all of those tools, and then coming up with the layout that works, talking to the partners about engines and powertrains, and then you go from there.
Wow. I know that Adrian has now left the team, but he's still very much involved in the RB17.
Yeah, he collared me this morning.
Did he?
He was going to get into his Lotus to do a run up the hill, and we had an impromptu debrief of how things are going and what the next challenges are.
Because there's still fine-tuning going on.
Yes, we're in the point where we got all the aerodynamic surfaces and the styling surfaces out before Adrian left. So then it's just a case of just making the car real, which I can say very flippantly, and then I get killed when I get back to the factory for having said that.
Okay.
Because now it's every single part has to be designed in detail and then manufactured. So it's an exciting time because we're opening our manufacturing facility on Monday.
Yeah.
And we're actually starting to lay up the chassis either on Monday or Tuesday. So it's very much soon after.
Wow.
So it is a really good time for RB17, and it really is moving forward.
It's a stunning looking thing, and I can probably put money on the fact that DC's maybe put his name in the hat to drive it.
I'd definitely like to drive it. I thought you were going to say put my name in the hat to buy one.
I thought you were going to give me a deposit.
Yeah, I got the opportunity to own a Valkyrie for a period of time, which is, this is very much a leap forward from Valkyrie, but you can see some similarities in design cues. Valkyrie designed for the road, this designed as a track car. But I'm curious in terms of what the simulation says right now. What on a set of slicks would it do around a track? Formula One comparable or
in the virtual world? Yeah. It is faster than an F1 car. In Spa, I think they did a 138, something like that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, incredibly fast. Incredibly fast.
So once it's all up and running and out on the track, how quickly can you come up with a Red Bull feat with some sort of other Red Bull athlete with that car?
Oh, I mean, we're not really thinking along those lines. I sort of look at it and think, well, I really hope that next year we're back here.
Yeah.
But it's with the running car, and then you can drive me up the hill.
Yeah. Awesome.
So
the smile on his face.
That's what we're really looking forward to.
The smile on your face just then, just like, yes, I'll do it. Yes,
yeah, of course, absolutely.
Sign me up, please. Yeah.
Love a bit of tech.
Is there room for a passenger? Because I'm totally on board with that.
No, that's me.
Oh, okay. I'll fight you for it after this podcast. It's fine. So back to Goodwood. Talk to me about when you first came to Goodwood Festival of Speed and what this kind of event means to you both.
Well, it was definitely when we were with Jaguar. So it was more than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So probably early 2000s.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's just an amazing event. It's a lovely day out. We come down every year, and I think it really says something that people who are working in the car industry all the time always make an effort to come to Goodwood. And just walking around, I've not had masses of time to walk around. But
we might have to pause for a second.
It's Goodwood. It's loud. I think that's an old Mercedes.
See, now it's fine because the mics are picking us up, but we won't be able to hear each other. That's going to be the challenge.
I can hear you perfectly fine.
Or can you
I'll tell you about my first experience at Goodwood. It was earlier than Rob's. I came here for the very first Goodwood, and I have a poster from that on my office wall. So I've not made every year, but I've been here almost every year.
Say that again. So, I mean, because you've basically been here pretty much every year since, and you've always gone up the hill in something a little bit different. But does it mean more to you when you go up the hill in some of those like old Red Bull cars, the old RB7s, RB8s?
To be honest, I never take it for granted jumping in a Formula One car, even if it's an old Formula One car, because that represented the best technology at that time. And it takes a massive effort to keep them, it takes a massive effort to run them. And so, yeah, I'm always going to enjoy that. But seeing the decades of Grand Prix cars is the thing that's really impressive. I got to drive the very first Grand Prix winning car at Silverstone, the Alfa Romeo 158. And so that's where the Formula One journey began. And where we are today. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
And that's handy that you brought that up, because we do want to talk about 75 years of Formula One. That's what we're celebrating. We've got a whole massive Formula One paddock that's set up here at Goodwood Festival of Speed. And Red Bull has only really been a small part of that because it's only existed for the last 20 years. However, when you look at the numbers, the championships, what Red Bull have won, it's such a massive dent in those last 75 years for such a short amount of time. Has there been any particular highlight for the both of you over the last 20 years?
Well, I mean, I think winning the first championship was a huge highlight because that felt like we had an impossible mountain to climb ahead of us. And when we first climbed that mountain and achieved that was the best feeling. I think there was a bit of a feeling on the Monday after of, oh my God, we've now got to push again and do it again.
Yeah.
But, we carry on.
DC?
Yeah, I think that seeing the team evolve from that first meeting with Mr. Mateschitz, where I was trying to understand why this would be different to what Jaguar were delivering. And his vision was very much about first we get respectable, then we get successful. So to be part of that early journey, I think was something really enjoyable because there was largely most of the Jaguar people became Red Bull people. There was obviously some headline changes. but they were a good core of good people.
Yeah.
But I think that the structure with having to sort of report to America and then come back, and it was just a very different. I think you were probably targeting about 4 or 5 upgrades a year back then, where in modern Formula One, you do target an upgrade every race.
Several upgrades every race.
Yeah.
And it's just a continuously evolving prototype now.
How do you see the future of Red Bull racing? I mean, so many championships under your belts already. Where do you go from here? What's next?
Well, you keep fighting and you keep winning.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no other answer, I don't think. It's sort of...
Got to keep moving forward.
Yeah. And obviously next year's a very exciting year with powertrains coming online.
Yes.
And so I'm sure there'll be challenges with that, but at the same time, I'm sure we'll be successful.
Well, I wanted to pick your brain as well, actually, DC, about the new regulation changes that are going to be coming in next year. So for someone that's basically driven every Formula One car in the Red Bull lineup, how do you think, what kind of difference do you think the new regulations are going to make? How do you think that's going to feel?
Well, when you have major regulation change, it normally has a sort of shaking up of the running order. When you have sort of periods of stability, then you see teams can carry success from one year into the next year. It's a complete clean slate. I'm not sure what elements are carried over. I'm sure there'll be a button here or a knob there, but a complete different power unit, completely different chassis, suspension, wheel size, tire size. So it's major shake-up, and it's not impossible that a team that has not shown any real competitive values this year suddenly comes out and is very quick next year. Well, we've got three engine suppliers next year, or four engine suppliers. So we've got Red Bull powertrains, we've got Honda, we've got Ferrari, we've got Mercedes. One of them will for whatever reason do a little better job, and then that, if you've got a little bit more efficiency or a little bit more heat rejection quality or a little bit more power, they're all qualities that then can mean you need less cooling, or you can run more wing, and it just has knock-on effects. So Formula One right now is closer than it's ever been. I think next year it'll be further apart from, spreads out a bit. But nobody knows right now who's aced it. And if this was just a game of what the sim world tells you, then you would use the most advanced AI and pop the regulations in, and that would create the same design for everybody.
Yeah.
But there will be variations in how people want to lay out the suspension and how they want to do their cooling and all that sort of good stuff. So from a technical point of view, massive amount of work for all of you tech guys. The drivers can only sit back and hope for the best.
Yeah, that's why. Yeah, how would you approach that as a driver?
You hope for the best. You trust in your team.
Yeah.
And good people are good people. Even if they don't quite ace it right away, they'll learn what to do next.
Yeah. Because it is the closest it's ever been. Because even, at Silverstone last weekend, there was, during a qualifying lap, Max and Lando both got exactly the same time during one lap, down to the 100th, which is such a weird thing to see when you saw those numbers up on the screen, down to the 100th of a second. So when it comes to next year, how far apart do you think we could be?
Next year, I wouldn't be able to put a percentage on it, but I do think it could easily double. Right now, if we say a second covers the field, it could be 2 seconds next year. But I don't know. That's the whole reason why we turn up in sport, because we do not know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Is there any particular race that you guys enjoy going to more than any other, apart from Silverstone? Because in my humble opinion, Silverstone is the best of the best.
Well, I think always when I was working on the Formula One side, going to Australia was always fantastic, because you're put up with the British winter while you're trying to develop the car, and then to get on that plane and go to Australia once you've got through pre-season testing, you go and get the Australian sunshine and enjoy the atmosphere there. It was always lovely. So yeah, Australia for me.
So working within advanced technologies, do you get to go to many races anymore, or are you mostly doing show runs and feats?
It's just if there's a particular requirement. So no, I don't go to many races at all. Although I was in Monaco, but that was more seeing some customers about the RB17.
And have you ever planned a show run or planned a feat that you wanted to do just purely because you wanted to visit that country?
I'm not sure we're quite allowed to do that, but it's not a bad idea.
For 2025, we're excited to welcome ArvaTrade as the presenting partner of the award-winning Talking Bull podcast. ArvaTrade is a globally regulated, multi-award-winning broker featuring over 1,250 tradable instruments from CFDs and futures to options. With trading platforms like MT4 and MT5, as well as their mobile app or web trader, ArvaTrade is built to empower traders to trade with confidence anytime at every level. We have got some questions that have come in from listeners, by the way. So this is from Patrick in the Netherlands, who says, if you could drive a famous movie car at Goodwood, what would you choose?
Well, I think I just did that at the Red Bull Ring. I drove the Sean Connery Aston Martin DB5, I believe.
Yeah, DB5.
DB5, I had to get it right. So I had machine guns, I had ejector seat.
What were you wearing?
I was just wearing my normal clothing because I travel hand carry everywhere. So,
so you didn't do it
take
right.
a smoking jacket all the way there just to drive a lap in the car.
You should have done it though.
Yeah, well,
I feel like
you know,
you've let me down.
there's only one Sean Connery, so I don't want to be an imposter. But that was, I'm happy with that.
Go on then, if you could drive anything.
I don't know. I mean, the one that springs to mind is the Mustang out of Bullet. Just Steve McQueen's Mustang.
Yes, very nice. I thought someone was going to go like DeLorean or something, but even though that was technically quite a slow car.
DeLoreans are cool, but I don't think they're that great to drive from what I hear.
No. The backstory of DeLorean is definitely not one of high engineering and without a few twists and turns behind the scenes. I think it's most famous for Back to the Future.
Yes.
I don't think it's famous for being a well-engineered, nice car to drive.
Although there is a company that's now actually turned a DeLorean electric. So it's got more power behind it.
Everyone's turning everything electric, aren't they now? But you know, there's one original at any given time. But it's always nice to be able to celebrate something, and sometimes a vehicle that isn't really celebrated in its period becomes iconic afterwards.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, that's a very good point. This is from Arjen in the Netherlands, who says, David, your son Dayton started this year in his first single-seater session in motor racing. How is he doing? And can you, as a dad, help him a lot with his career? Are you a bit like Jos and Max and really super supportive?
Well, I think he's done 4 races so far. He's racing this weekend, Snetterton. He finished second at the last race, so he's been progressing in each of the events. Obviously, he's got to be targeting winning because that's how you progress. There's a lot I could share with him, but in the end, it's not my career. It's his career.
Do you think he feels pressure for being your son?
I don't know if that's a factor, not a factor. In the end, you grow up in whatever environment you are.
Yeah.
He's got a sort of leg up in that. When I was growing up, my family had nothing to do with motor racing. So at least he's got someone that has an involvement in motor racing, so that must help him. But in the end, it's about him driving. I remember when I first drove a Formula 1 car when I was 19, I won the McLaren Autosport Young Driver of the Year award. And someone that we know who still works at Red Bull Racing, I almost said Paul Stewart Racing, taking me way back to the beginning of my journey, is Paul Monahan. And Paul is on the Formula 1 team. His nickname is affectionately Pedals because he used to design the pedals back at McLaren.
Yeah.
So he'll thank you for mentioning that.
Yeah, absolutely. I still call him Pedals. But when I was 19, I went to McLaren. He fitted me in the car, made sure the pedals were all good.
Yeah.
And I remember calling my parents to say, because I was living in Milton Keynes, because, as I say, Paul Stewart Racing became Stewart Grand Prix, became Jaguar, became Red Bull Racing. So there was a top and tail to my career. And some of the guys who still work for Red Bull Racing today were working for Paul Stewart Racing when I first started the journey. But anyway, the point was, when I called my parents to say, next week I'll be testing the Formula 1 car, Ayrton Senna's McLaren Honda V12.
Wow.
Because they built a V12 just to show Ferrari that they could do it. So we shared the car with Senna and Berger, and manual shift, beautiful, beautiful car, Marlboro colours. And my dad said to me, son, they're testing you, they're not testing us. Just go there, drive the car, try not to crash it. The point of that story is I went to the test on my own.
Yeah.
So you can only do so much for your children.
Yeah.
And what would they have done if my parents had been there? They can't drive the car.
Yeah.
They can say good luck. They can put an arm around your shoulder. But at a certain point, you're in the car alone. You have to drive alone. And you have to make your own decisions. And if you're good, you'll make good decisions. If you're average, you'll make average decisions. There's thousands of young racers each year all want to be Max or Lewis or whatever. And maybe in every 5-year period, you'll get one person that's capable. So they've just got to make the journey.
But hey, if that was his 4th race and he's already come second, it looks like there's potential.
He's got to win. Got to, the checker flag is, well, you've got to see that before everyone else.
How young was he when you kind of got the inkling that he wanted to get into racing?
He didn't start karting until he was about 9.
Okay.
Because
that's quite late, really.
Yeah, so because I never took him karting.
Right.
I had him in the sailing club, the football club, the golf club. I actually didn't particularly encourage him to go into racing because I think racing as a hobby is fantastic. Racing as a career is really, really difficult. And not everyone, for whatever reason, gets that opportunity, and not everyone can make a career out of it.
Yeah. Very well. I can feel a sense of pride coming from him, which is quite lovely. We've got a question here from Mauricio in the USA who says, what's been your most challenging Grand Prix and why? Also, thank you.
Malaysian Grand Prix, I think it was probably 99, an Adrian Newey special where the car only worked if it was like dragging its arse on the ground, and there was a titanium insert that was directly below where my buttocks were, and because I was tall, I didn't have any seat at the bottom of my car, and in the chassis there was where the core is at the bottom, there was an indent to allow me to basically get as low as possible. So instead of having, I don't know what it is, maybe a 10 mil section,
10 mil, something like that.
so I probably had like 3 or 4 mil of carbon. So basically, during that Grand Prix, it got red hot, and it burned through my Nomex onto my left buttock, and I finished the race with a blister the size of a 2-pence piece. And I went to Adrian and I said, look, we've got to sort this out. I'm blistered. And we got a picture, and it went on the McLaren server saying we need to find a solution to this right now, because we needed the car low, but obviously you can't.
You don't want to sit on the floor.
I was being branded every time I drove the car. Yeah.
And did he find a solution?
Yes, they did. Yes,
there we go. This is from Alexandra in Austria, who says, what's your favourite circuit that isn't on the Formula One calendar?
I always enjoyed Magny Cours.
Okay.
I think it was one of my best wins against Michael. It's the one that I gave him the signal that I was going to be number one.
Yes.
So yeah, I just think I drove really well in that Grand Prix, and it was some people may not consider it a classic, but there was high speed change of direction. There was low speed where you had to be, very precise. Some long corners, which are challenging from an engineering point of view, because race cars don't like to have steering lock for long periods of time, because you're, destabilizing the aerodynamics. So you've got to try and find solutions for that. But yeah, no, that was a good track.
As somebody who likes to go fast, do you find it a struggle to drive a normal day-to-day car?
I drive.
Do you have points on your normal license?
I've got a Monaco license, so the points don't make it there. I don't drive very often, actually.
Do you not?
No, I love being driven. Perfectly happy to be a passenger. It's just I don't see the pleasure in going from A to B. I see the pleasure in doing a car rally, a tour through the mountains. I do more on motorbikes, actually. Mark Webber and I have done a number of different motorbike tours in UK, Portugal. We were in New Zealand after Melbourne. I actually managed to fall off and break my collarbone. So I've now got 8 screws and a metal plate in my left. Yeah, it was a good trip.
Good trip.
Yeah, it's just a collarbone. It heals.
But Rob, the same question goes for you, because you've been part of Red Bull Racing for such a long time, designing and creating and being part of cars that go stupidly fast. So when you go and then sit back in your normal car, do you then find that a relaxing experience, or do you also want to put your foot down a little bit?
I think it depends where you're going. Driving backwards and forwards to work is pretty boring.
Yeah.
But driving across the South Downs last night to go to dinner was really nice.
Yes.
So yeah, I do still get pleasure from it.
Do you have a need for speed as well? Like, was there a part of you that wanted to be a racing driver, and that's how you ended up becoming an engineer? Or?
I think my ambition was always to be an engineer, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
So did you go to university, study engineering?
Went to university, studied mechanical engineering.
Right.
Then went to ProDrive and did a bit of work on rally cars.
Okay.
Originally.
Yeah.
And analysis in general, and then went to Jaguar. So I've only worked at 2 companies in my career.
That's it?
Yeah.
That's very nice and straightforward.
Incredibly loyal.
Yeah. That's very nice and straightforward. So what made you want to move over to Jaguar from rally? Because they're 2 completely different
Well, it's always
things.
been the dream, hasn't it? I mean, pretty much, I reckon at university, 95% of the people on the course, the dream was to go into F1.
Yeah.
You know, it was always it was seen as the pinnacle.
Yeah.
And so, we saw an opportunity and had to go for it.
I think actually, having spoken to a number of engineers over the years, the thing that's so appealing about Formula One is you can affect the performance by having a cunning idea, and you can see that come very quickly. So people who work in aero companies and things like that, it can take a year to see something that you've designed come to fruition.
Yeah.
Whereas in Grand Prix racing, if you have an idea, very often it'll come from a conversation with the driver who's essentially complaining about the product, and the engineers will go away and in the shower that night they'll go, well, this hasn't been done before, but if we did this, could you do it? Could you use it? And the driver goes, yeah, I can use that.
Yeah.
And so it's that innovation, it's that ability to design and build and put it on quickly, which I think really works for you guys.
But I don't think that was, I'm not sure that I knew about that when I had the ambition to come into the industry. But it's, the great thing about working in F1 was, going to work on a Monday and you've got a list of problems of what's gone wrong from the weekend, you fix them and that bit's going to be on the car on Friday. And so it's that really fast feedback loop.
But do events like this give you cravings just to go and work on a little old rust bucket, or do you still just enjoy fine tuning the Red Bull cars that we've got lined up here for Formula One?
I tinker with rust buckets, but the thing I find is I don't have the time, so it's like I'm really bad at starting work on these things and never actually finishing them.
Because I do think that is the joy of this event, is it is every single spectrum of car culture, every single spectrum, from people that are still just learning how an engine works and what goes on underneath it, to the people at the top of their game, at the pinnacle of motorsport, all coming together to celebrate the fact that they love things that move, things that go fast, engineering, that kind of thing. And I think that's the joy of Goodwood. What's next for the rest of your weekend?
I'm probably going home tonight, so I've not got that much longer left. But I mean, I would say that, walking around, it's great seeing all the things that you've been involved in the past.
Yeah.
And the first thing I saw when I arrived here was actually John Cleland's Cavalier touring car from sometime in the 80s, and I remember sitting in that car when I was about age 10, and it was the first racing car I'd sort of sat in. And so you see lots of personal memories when you come around here as well. I'd probably make some time later to go over into the infield and see some more of the random things that are in there. But we'll see what we find.
A good old mooch. Going for a good mooch. Yeah. DC?
I would love to go for a mooch, but
too famous.
I
too difficult
don't want to
for
say
you.
that. I don't want to say that, but it's more challenging.
Well, we do have a big crowd here today, and there's been people. There's Scottish flags and everything all being waved for you today.
Flag, Colin was a great man.
For Colin McRae. Oh, I love that. Oh, yes, you've got to go sign that flag at some point today. So, are you going up the hill again this afternoon?
Nope, I'm all done. Yeah, I'm all done for today in terms of driving. So
yeah. And
this was the highlight, talking with you both.
Natural, on an extremely low sofa.
I'm a bit worried about getting up at my age from this low position, but I'll give it a go.
So, aside from the one thing that you can't tell us about what you're working on at the moment, is there anything else in the pipeline with advanced technologies that you guys are working on together that you can give us a little inkling on?
Not at the moment.
Don't think so, no.
Oh.
That's not to say that we're not just one idea.
Yeah. Yes. One dream, according to Chris Kyle. One dream, and then you can make that come true. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining me on Talking Ball. I've had a lovely time chatting to you both. Go enjoy the rest of your weekend here at Goodwood. It's boiling hot. Go get some water. Stay hydrated, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Woo!